Greetings. And I know I haven't been on in a few days. I've just had real life going on. Okay, if you don't know who I am, I'm Suzanne Titkemeyer. I used to write a column for Pathos called No Longer Quivering that involved the quiverful movement in evangelical Christianity. The foilables and follies of everybody on there is really what I did. Okay, if you could do the YouTube things, hit like, subscribe, ring the bell notification, I would be blessed. These are just my opinions. Please don't bully anybody I talk about here. Never, 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 even if it's that troll. Just don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. And try to be gentle with each other in the comments. That's all I can say. The last couple of days, I'm sorry, have been interesting for me because I had a situation where I was talking to another creator, hey, Bossy, that I'm friends with, and I'm still friends with her. Yeah, I'm feeling okay, small town Jewel. I got to talk about that a little minute too. So that may play into this whole thing. When I was in the States, I got a refill on my Lyrica. And I've forgotten that certain manufacturers of the generic, all different. So I had some 2.5 weeks of nerve pain. So okay, so that was just one of those things. So I think that it is the fact that I hit on a generic that is not good for me. So I'm done with that. I'm back to the generic I know works, and hopefully the nerve pain will recede. And the people that the nerve pain will recede, and I will maybe be in a better place mentally because I won't be waking up all night in extreme pain like I've been waking up off and on over the last 2 weeks. I haven't slept at all, hardly. So that's why I haven't been videoing as often, and I have my wrong glasses on. Oh well. Um, so I had something happen over the last couple of days that has really, really, really been something that would have happened in my old Fundy Town days. What am I talking about? I'm talking about one of the most common things when you are in those kind of religions: thought control, emotion control. Small town Julie, yes, it is. It is agonizing. It is agonizing, and it has really screwed with me, and haven't done so well with it. And it took me a little while to figure out. I was like, oh yeah, I tried a different manufacturer of my Lyrica. And I know that formularies are different from thing to thing. So that all plays into it. This is weird, but I believe it. Whenever we move, the first time I get my meds from the same pharmacy and the same manufacturer, the meds affect me differently each time and very, very different. Oh, that's really interesting, Bossy. So we're trying to diet here too, and that has really added another layer of just awful. I've had difficulty with my blood sugar as a result. I don't mean it going too high. I mean tanking way too low by eating differently, just by eating a diet put together by a dietitian at Clinio, of all places. I just wanted them to do the meals so I wouldn't have to worry about it. I could just follow the menu. And the problem is my blood sugar's tanked. So I'm on the lowest dose of blood sugars. I'm on the lowest dose of blood sugar meds I've ever been on. And I'm still having lows. So maybe I'm not diabetic as they thought. Anyway, so all of this played into me reacting to somebody. It's another creator who I happen to love named Erin. I've always liked Erin. I've always gotten along with her. Save for one thing. Erin has this thing that she does every now and then that I've seen in my old toxic high demand group. Sometimes, excuse me, and Erin is one of these people that enjoys fighting with people. She's told me that before, and I know that about her, and I know not to take the bait. But sometimes she'll try to tell somebody what their emotions, what their stated emotion is not right, that they should be feeling X, Y, or Z. My doc and the pharmacist thought it'd be because meds are coming from factories in different areas. Yep, 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 yep. Well, your nurse is stupid. I'm just going to tell you right there. That nurse is not right because you are affected by meds coming from different sources, different countries. Yeah, and it is scary. It's scary when something is not right and everybody tells you that it's wrong. So the thing with Erin is sometimes she will tell people that their emotions were not right, that they weren't feeling that or thinking that. And that's a cult tactic. It really is. It's something that the old church used to do and still does. But my hair's got a weird wave in it today. I got a tale about tomorrow yesterday. It was pretty crazy here. Oh, and somebody stole our trash can. Can you imagine that? The petty crime of Costa Rica, somebody steals your trash can. Right. So you know something's not right, and it takes a while to figure it out sometimes. And so if you remember last year when Roadhog was running around saying stuff about and not everybody is bossy, and I'm fine with that. I don't watch all of her videos either. You remember when Roadhog was being big and bad all last year, and he was running around shouting and screaming and carrying on about various things. And I asked him not to call women the C word. Do you remember how insane he went at that point? Number one fan. I'm getting ready to have cataract surgery. I can only use one particular pharmacy to order them from. Oh, I'm sorry, number one fan. I have a girlfriend of mine here just had cataract surgery, and I'm going to have it done at some point. She didn't realize that post-surgery they were going to tell her she couldn't look down. She couldn't constantly be bending down or anything. It's pretty crazy. Yeah, I can't stand him either, Small Town Jewel. But I was trying to give him the benefit of the doubt because everybody in the community loved him. I would cringe away every time he would call somebody the C word, even that troll, because I don't believe that is ever called for. Just like I would normally never call a man flaccid, I would never insult him in some major sort of way like that. But Roadhog kept running his mouth big and bad, using curse words, a whole 9 yards, and it was very triggering to me. My ex-husband did a number on me where there's certain things I just can't tolerate now. One of them is some kinds of language. The other is abusive yelling. Okay. I can't tolerate that. If I see that in a creator, I click off. And I was clicking off for a Roadhog, but I was trying to offer him some constructive criticism because I know that YouTube is not going to pay him if he uses those words consistently. So I wasn't doing it to be mean. He and Real are a stain on this community. They do it to be hurtful and mean. Yeah, that's bad. Bad, bad, bad. So when I told him this stuff, he reacted very poorly. Surprise, surprise. The little baby man reacted poorly to being criticized. And I became his latest whipping boy. He started after me big time. Please do not throw those in my gardening bed. I'm sorry, I'm watching the gardener out of the corner of my eye while I'm talking. So he didn't react well, and he kept going after me over and over and over. And at first, I was kind of like, haha, whatever. I didn't take it in at all. But as time went on, he started saying things like he would offer somebody money to come to Costa Rica to stomp my rear end. He started saying that on such a regular basis there for about a week that I just started shaking. I started shaking and trembling and freaking out, even though I know this part of me knows that the chances of any of his buddies coming to Costa Rica and finding me is slim and none because I live in one of the 10 trillion little villages around Tamarindo. Yeah, I did give him way too much credit hastily. So I was terrorized for 2 or 3 days. And I will say that that's what I was feeling was terror. I was feeling terror, even though I knew rationally that the chances of them finding me here were slim and none. And there's a 12-foot wall. There's all sorts of things that would stop any of them from doing that. including things like burglar alarms and cameras. So it's not even really a rational thing that one of them could have done, pulled off. But it gave me, I mean, I was just shaking for several days at least, maybe a week. I don't remember, but it was definitely terrorizing to me, to the point where I called our lawyer and talked about it, because somebody threatening you, I take that stuff seriously. And so at the time, Erin did a live stream where she didn't name me specifically, but she was talking about people giving Roadhog too much credit, and not so much that, but she said that the person that was offended by the language, which was me, was not a real feminist, because a real feminist would realize that feminism, sort of laugh, because I've been a feminist for years, involves allowing men to say awful things about women as much as women say awful things about men, and for an even playing field to be equals. And at the time I listened, I said, yeah, I reject that BS too, because it's not what's going on here. But she was a friend of Roadhog's at the time, and I thought, well, she's just pulling it out of her rear end. Well, the other day she started doing something sort of similar to somebody else, and I was like, ooh, wait a minute now here. I didn't know she was the expert on this. This is my issue with her. Yeah, there are crazy people out there, so I'm glad you took it seriously. Yeah, and I did. I took it seriously and checked into what my options were to legally stop this from going on. Because being in Costa Rica is a little bit different. I would have to hire my Costa Rican attorney to get an American attorney to go after somebody. So you have to figure out what the threat level actually is before you spend that kind of money to do that crap, because it might be throwing good money after bad. So I tried to talk to her about it shortly thereafter. She blew me off. We had just a short little conversation, and I don't even think she really realized what I was asking her. So I kind of left it there and thought, well, I'm just not going to have much to do with Erin anymore, because this is a problem for me. And this is why I have to discuss it, because the other day she started doing it to somebody else, and I said, well, your words have power. You're going to hurt people. That's basically what I said. You need to acknowledge that sometimes you're going to hurt people, and maybe you should say you're sorry sometimes for that stuff. This is why I love having a lawyer brother. He would eat someone for breakfast, and they tried him. Yeah, that is the best. So that was all I said. I didn't say because blah, 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 and go in this big, long detail. Later, I did say, well, I was really hurt when you kept saying that there was no way I was suffering. I was not terrorized, because I was. And if you look at the definition of what terrorized is, and Wikipedia, it fits exactly what I was going through for a couple days there, until I realized that he doesn't even have the money to take a bus ticket to the state line of Indiana. So that wasn't happening. So I kind of left it at that. And I just said, we're never going to agree on this. I've said my piece. We're just going to have to agree to disagree. And I walked away. It doesn't mean I think less of Erin. It just makes me a little cautious of her now. I'm just going to say that. So later I started thinking about it, because almost everything that happens in life for me has a echo back into my years at Quiverful. This is one of those things. When I was part of Quiverful, one of the things that was really promoted hard was take every thought captive. That also can be extrapolated out to mean your feelings are not valid. Don't let anybody ever, and I don't care who they are, if they're Erin, your pastor, the Pope, the guy down the street, whoever, don't let anyone tell you that your feelings are not valid. Your feelings are not your feelings, because your feelings are definitely valid. Your feelings are your feelings are your feelings. Now, whether they're based in reality is a whole different ballgame, because we all have weird feelings. And I was talking about that yesterday. I'm an overthinker. I'm an overthinker to the nth degree. As in, people can say things or do things, or I can experience things, and I will think on it for a long, long time. And sometimes I'll extrapolate out in some pretty weird places. But I rarely will go ahead and say, oh, yeah, this is what's going on. I know for sure this is what's going on. Rarely I'll do that. I usually will think on it for a long time. Even with this whole Erin situation, it took me a long time before I would actually say anything to her about it because I wanted to think about it for a while. My old quiverful church was famous for telling us that your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions are not your own and you have to control them. I saw Lori Alexander doing this yesterday when she was saying that chemistry in a marriage was unimportant, that chemistry, attraction, all of that was unimportant, that all of your feelings, your emotions, your thoughts about that other person were wrong, that you should suppress them. And if he was a good provider and a Christian, you should marry him and keep your damn mouth shut. Nope. No, 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 no. Attraction are those things that will help you carry you through those sticky little bits. And there's going to be those bits. If you're married, you are going to run across those moments where you aren't going to agree with your spouse and you're going to be looking at them going, yeah, why are you thinking that? Why are you putting me through that? I gave her a follow on Instagram, but I had to read the hate she spews. Bossy. She has me so blocked that I'm only seeing everything second, third hand. So I have to wait for people to bring it out and post it at Lori Alexander banned me at Facebook. So she says these awful things. I'm just looking at them going, and this about marriage is so, it's another snapshot, a microshot of how in religion thoughts are handled and feelings, emotions. She loves the fact that emotions are thought to be wrong. And I think it's because she herself seems to have very few emotions. Same thing with biblical generals. Oh my gosh, Larry Solomon, or Larry, as I could say his real name. Somebody gave me his real name and his information, and it lined up perfectly with this other person's on Facebook, and I'm sure it's him. That's all I can say. And the guy is the most average looking, average guy on the planet. There's nothing on his real Facebook to indicate that he holds all these hateful, horrible views. And all I can say is, I don't think Larry puts any of that crap in action. I think that he is all talk, no action. I'm just going to say it. And that's very common in these high demand religious organizations like that. Very common. Very common. A lot of them will spew out the worst of the worst of the worst. And it turns out none of them do it, or they're not able to do it. I am a major overthinker as well. I worry about everything. Small town Jewel, I do that. That's my hobby. My hobby is overthinking. My husband, Mr. Happy-go-lucky, skipping around me. I'm behind going, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, this could happen. What will I do if this happens? What will I do if that happens? And it's a terrible thing. And then to combine that with quiverful and with evangelical Christianity, where they tell you all your emotions are wrong, your emotions are wrong, your emotions are wrong. And they tell you to shut off your emotions. Smile. Smile no matter what's going on. Smile and feel the peace of God. Now, the peace of God is an awesome, awesome, awesome thing. But at the same time, if you're standing on a rock that is rolling during a hurricane, during an earthquake with a hurricane and a tornado and fire is burning down on you, smiling like a lunatic and feeling nothing but peace is probably not a good thing. There are reasons that we have The Gift of Fear is a book by Gavin Becker. It was excellent that explains all this. You just need to have these things in your brain to survive our modern society or even ancient society. There is a reason that sometimes in our brain there are things that say run. I'm one of those people too that if I ignore my inner voice and force myself to do whatever I'm not wanting to do, it ends up as a goat rodeo. It ends up horribly. And I try not to ever do that because when I was in the my church, I almost said the C word here, the CULT word they don't like on YouTube. I was always ignoring my inner voice many times. And you'll read that when I finally do publish this stupid book I'm writing that's taking forever, because I did that a lot. I did that when they did an exorcism over the Stone Kid. And I'm standing there watching this, and my inner voice is telling me to shout at these people and get them off this kid. And I just said, oh no, I'm going to turn my back and get everybody to pray for what's going on. I did it again and again and again and again, and it had never worked out well for me. Yeah, Larry Solomon is quite disgusting with his have your wife dress slutty for you. Spank your wife when she doesn't listen to you. Don't let your wife have access to your money. It's your money. She has no claim to it. Bossy, did you see the one where he said that he controls his wife by controlling her medication, her pain medication? I thought that was one of the most disgusting things he's ever said. He's denied it since and said he didn't say it. I wish I still had a screen cap of it because, yes, indeed, he did say it. He said the way to control your wife is to control things like her pain medication, how much money you give her for groceries, for decorating the house, for various things. It's all about control. I need to find the article City about the family in Australia. Did you see it? Basically, did a Bethel church with Olive. No, Bossy, I did not, but I'm not surprised. I know of so many cases where that happened. Like I said, my old church was involved with Bethel. We went to all these Bethel conferences. They brought Bethel speakers to our church. And in my book, I call those, what did I call them? I call them something. I'm having a brain fart here. Senior moment. I didn't call them Jesus Wing, but I called them something very close because we used to have those things. And they taught that we were to raise the dead. And I got to admit, I was so Kool-Aid drinking at the time that when my disliked stepfather died, I went up to the casket to pray for him to come out of that casket because I knew my mother was in such distress that it would resolve her pain if I could raise him from the dead. So I tried it myself. It was one of the craziest things I've ever done. I got to write that in the book too, because that was towards the end of my time and I was getting ready to leave. And I fully believed it. I believe that God heals everybody all of the time, that if you're not getting a healing when you're prayed for, there's something else going on, that that's God's desire is to heal the first time. Now I'm looking at things, and things are a lot more complex than they are in these churches where they say this is. And Bethel makes me laugh. They have guys that have T-shirts on that say death raising team. They have a death raising team, which is pretty crazy. If you look at their success rate, isn't very good. This just happened. The oldest daughter doesn't associate with family anymore. She said in an interview that their church got stricter and became a splinter church of it. Said God would heal their ill child. Sounds about right, Bossy. That's kind of how the old church I was going to got. And after I left, it dwindled down and down and down as more people started to realize that it was turning into a CULT and left. I was one of the first ones to leave. I wasn't the first one to leave. I had other friends that left. But to leave was to be treated like, I can't even begin to tell you, lower than dirt. And one of the things that I carried out for 2 years, I cried leaving. I felt like I was the black sheep who was put beyond the enclosure, and there was no forgiveness for me whatsoever, because that was what they were telling me. I forgot what she had, but something that needed meds, not prayers, real medicine. Bossy, there's been a couple of cases of kids with juvenile diabetes that have died because of these kinds of churches and their preaching on that. And kids with leukemia, all kinds of things. It's just wicked as far as I'm concerned. So they need to Even in the Bible, God told people occasionally go to the doctor. I mean, Jesus, what am I saying? So it doesn't mean that doctors can't help you and they're not God's way to heal you. I think that however it happens, if it's doctor, if it's medicine, if it's somebody laying hands on you, however it happens. And it's just part of the nature of, I think, of what we're doing in our lives and what's going on. I read and watch about LDS families, etc., where they're scared to leave because they'll lose their families, their identity, etc. Bossy, that's the problem. That is a problem. So you swallow some of these things like denial of feelings because you don't want to lose your entire support system. I don't understand how people could believe some of this stuff, but I guess if you are raised in it, or that's the only thing you hear, you believe it. Small town Jewel, that's the thing. And a lot of times I was saying this earlier, when you join, you have to start believing this stuff or you have to leave. There's no wiggle room. That you aren't going to stay there very long if you aren't believing at least some of this stuff. Yeah. I see that has happened again and again with diabetic kids, and that is wicked as far as I'm concerned. Even because there's meds to treat diabetes, and part of that is education and knowing what to do. Like I said, if I didn't know myself so well, this whole diet could have ended up throwing me into the hospital had I not known, okay, yeah, this is just what happens when I restrict calories with my body. Everyone would watch Mormon No More on Hulu. It just came out excellent. I'm going to have to. I watched a lot of things when I was at my kid's house. I've fallen in love with a new series called Dark Winds that was pretty good. Two best friends fell in love with each other. Oh, that will bring you out, if nothing else. So the thing is, and at one point I remember being so horribly crushed because something was said to me at a prayer group at our old church. And I don't even remember what it was that was said, but whatever it was, I found it rather soul crushing. And I cried for days, and go get up, cry, washing your face for bedtime, crying, cooking dinner, crying. And it was like days and days and days and days. It was just stupid. It pulled me out of it. It was the strangest thing. Okay. And I'm looking around for one. And of course, I can't find one because I'm looking. You've heard me talk about having a notebook to write everything down in, particularly when you're doing research on a subject you're writing about. Okay. I've done that for years, and that has saved my biscuits a number of times with no longer quivering when someone came along and said, hey, I never said that. Yes, you did. You said it on this day. So, Dark Winds is on AMC. Yeah. I haven't watched The Old Man yet. I'm gonna have to do that. Dark Winds is Native American. It's the Navajo tribe. It's a murder mystery that takes place in Navajo country, which I think fascinating. And I love anything to do with Native Americans because I found out that I had some Native American blood. So that stupid notebook, I had a notebook where I had taken a ton of notes and I had all these writing ideas and different things in it. And I was looking through it and I stopped crying because I was looking at the stuff going, this is who you are, not what they're telling you who you are. This is who you are. You're funny. You're this, you're that, It's not you being this piece of crap or whatever it was they were telling me, that I was this wicked, horrible person who couldn't control their thought life, their emotions. So to see in writing who it actually was and what I was, which was completely different than what they were telling me, was the thing that switched it off for me. And I think that was the point where I realized that emotions are your emotions, whether they're true emotions or not, whether they're valid or anything. They're your emotions. Own them, embrace them, recognize. You got to own something to disown it. Oh, I'm doing fine. How are you doing, Angela? Should watch Longmire then. TV junkie, having a bad day, a super inflamed body, wants to see with a cry at the same day, but I think it's a no-go. Bossy, having a series of those days lately with extreme pain. So I may be watching Dark Winds and then Longmire. Everybody tells me Longmire and Yellowstone are the two that I need to see that I haven't seen yet. I just have not seen them, but I plan on it. What's interesting about Dark Winds is one of the producers is Robert Redford, and the other one is George R.R. Martin of Game of Thrones fame. And if you know anything about me, you know I adore Game of Thrones. I read the books when they came out, which was interesting because my son and son-in-law were watching the series and going, "Oh my God, I can't imagine what's coming next." And I'm going, "He, he," because I knew it was coming next. Particularly like the Red Wedding, and they're watching with them. We're like, "Oh, blah, 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 blah." I was like, "Oh," it's like, I'm not surprised. I knew that was happening. So back then, they would tell you all this crap. They would tell you to deny your emotions, deny your thoughts, and do just a lot of horrible crap to do that. To smile, smile, smile. And you know me, I love to laugh. I love to do stupid stuff like pull out this magic 8 ball and speculate on that troll's legal problems. I love to just fool around and do goofy things for fun. But at the same time, I'm not going to tell anybody to ever deny what they're feeling. Sit with your feelings and embrace them. Just be your feeling if you have to for a few days. And then move on. Breathe in, breathe out, move on, as the Jimmy Buffett song says. Looking back on it now, do you regret the amount of time you were there, or are you thankful for what you learned through your journey? I was extremely regretful for a long time. Now I'm not, because now I have the power to help other people. When I first started writing for No Longer Quivering for Pathos, I was taking it over because Vicki Garrison had too much of health issues to continue on. I mean, that's really what it was. And I could not get disability. I tried repeatedly with my mast cell. I struggled with myself. Every time I would work outside my home in an office, it might go well for 2 or 3 months, but after that, I would start reacting to all sorts of things as part of the mast cell, and it wouldn't go well. They don't like it when you miss a lot of work. So when I started writing for NLQ, it was just like, okay, I'm going to make a few bucks and I'm going to be able to stay home to do it. And what happened was it went from being that to being something entirely different. I became obsessed with pulling people out of that kind of thought patterns and religion. But at the same time, I had to really protect the amount of energy that I could put into those things too, because it was exhausting at first when I was listening to everybody's stories and trying to get help for everybody. It was just too much. And I realized that I had to handle myself a certain way. I had to have certain boundaries in place to be able to effectively do what I was doing. And the most effective thing that I could do would be to use my voice to reach out so everybody knew they weren't alone. They weren't alone, and they weren't the only ones going through this crap. So that is what came out of it. So what came out of it has been nothing but good, I think. So that's really where I am. I regretted it for a long, long time. Now I don't regret it. I see it was part of my journey that I absolutely had to walk through. And I will never, ever join a group like that ever again. And I almost did when we first joined Tamarindo Church here, and then it got toxic and we left. Now, my husband's in love with this church a couple cities away. I've been there. I'm not in love with it. It's too much like our old church in some weird ways, and I'm not down with that. Men in the group see actual grievances as complaining. That is exactly right. They think anything, even if you have a legitimate concern, anything that you do that is outside the normal, that is not part of the normal, is complaining or rebellion, and that is stupid. You have to be able to say, hey, this doesn't work. Let's let's brainstorm and come up with something that works. But in that group, you're not allowed to do that. A woman is not allowed to have any thoughts or feelings but smile and support the husband. That is it. No matter what stupid thing he's doing, even if he's crashing your family into the ditch. Being the man, was your husband more believing to them than you were when you were trying to get out? No, he was the one that drug me out, Small Town Jewel. Now, I talk about in my book, there were some distinct points where I stopped believing as much. And it started as maybe a tiny crack, and it grew to this unbreachable chasm before I left. And he told me he was leaving, and I was like, I had already talked to the pastor, had already talked to the kids. We were staying, he was leaving, and we were all okay with that. And then somebody I could not stand pulled an enormous boneheaded boner stunt in front of me. He was gossiping about my husband leaving the church in front of everybody he was going from person to person. My teenager overheard that, my teenage daughter, and started crying. And I was on the platform rehearsing with worship team. I saw that go down and I thought, enough is enough. Oddly enough, for me, the first point where I decided that I did not believe the same way as them, and it was a problem, was yoga. We'd been given, can I pull it out quickly? Probably not. Where? Yeah, here we go. We were given this. We were told to study a book called The Bondage Breakers by Neil T. Anderson. And we were all given this little thing. This was the first crack in me leaving my old church. It's ironic that it was this. Let me see if I can find the actual place. Here it is. Non-Christian Spiritual Experience Inventory. And there are like 100 things on here, something. One of the big ones on here, there were things on here that shouldn't be on here, like karate. Mormonism, Jehovah's Witness, various other churches, including the Catholic Church. But the big one for me was yoga. Why was yoga? I'm sorry. But yoga of all things. So we went through this Neil T. Anderson, The Bondage Breakers. I got to put this thing back because I refer back to it in my book a number of times. When I was married the first time, it was awful. We didn't get along. There were so many things. He was much older than me. There were so many things that were wrong. One of my few moments of oasis every day was twice a day, PBS ran Lilias Yoga and You, this program where you did yoga. And I did yoga with Lilias a half hour twice a day for a long time. And it would be, I'd put my baby in the swing, I'd turn on PBS, I'd do yoga in the living room. And that was a lifesaver for me. It was my little oasis, my time away. And so I said, why is yoga on this list? And this guy at church jumped up and started saying, yoga's on that list because you chant the name of demons. And I'm thinking, we never chanted any names of anything. We never chanted anything when I was doing Lilias Yoga and You. It was stuff like breathe out, I guess could be considered chanting a demon name. But I had benefited so much from that. And when I had surgeries later, I would remember yoga positions you could do for relief of gas, to make your stomach start working again, just different things that were helpful. And to this day, I still do yoga, but I do it in the pool where if I fall down, I can't hurt myself. And I also had bought the book at the time. And that was one of the biggest, most helpful things for me in that very unhappy time frame. Yeah, you would have been lost if someone said something my kid heard. Yes, that's why I kind of went off the deep end. So I went home and I looked at my Lilias Yoga and You book. And at the flyleaf, she dedicated it to her Lord Jesus Christ. And I'm thinking, here's this lady that's doing this gentle yoga on TV and dedicating it to Christ and no chanting. These people are full of nonsense. So for me, that was the first crack. And then other things happened. I think the biggest one that made it from a crack to a chasm was when they sent us away to deliverance ministry, my husband and I, for a weekend. It was a weekend around Thanksgiving. I was so angry. I didn't want to go. It was set up without my knowledge. It was sprung on me at the last minute. I was told, you were doing this. You have no options. You will do this. So I went through deliverance ministry, and it was the biggest pile of BS I've ever been through in my life. They tried to tell me my husband was having an affair. They tried to tell him that I was having an affair. There was all this stuff that they said that was so completely wrong. They kept him almost 10 hours. They kept me under 3 because I was not cooperative whatsoever. And they were pretty angry about that. But I couldn't see that I needed deliverance ministry because I didn't really have anything going on in my life that was so horrible. But they insisted that I did. And they went through a list of things that were not good. So that broke it. So by the time I left, I was only nominally a believer in what they were believing in. So when that person said all this crap around my child and made her cry, that was just kind of the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And I left. I left that day. I left. But like I said, that didn't protect me from the 2 years of crap being thrown at me. They didn't say anything about my husband leaving. They blamed me because I'd been one of the 5%ers, that does everything in church. I was on worship team. I had a number of roles, and when I left, they had some stuff they had to fill because I was gone. I'm super stuffed and inflamed. If it makes any sense. My pain is a different pain, but I'll have to use my walker. Oh, I'm so unhappy about that. It could be the weather. So now you know about me leaving. So when I left, it was 2 years worth of people saying things to me, like running into somebody from another church I knew that said, how can you be an apostate? How can you turn your back on the goodness of Jesus? And just chasing me through the streets of my little small town saying this to me. I'm like, I was at the brink of that group of hating men. I don't, but I was at a breaking point. Selena, that happens. I had days where I'm on the verge of that too. And the way that the whole patriarchal thing that is in a lot of these religions is just so wrong. It's just incredibly wrong. We were not good at doing traditional gender roles. The two of us weren't. And it was ill fit. It created all kinds of problems for us. And it wasn't our giftings. But the church was insisting this is the way it was. So for 2 years afterwards, I cried every single day. And I had encounter after encounter after encounter and encounter with people trying to torment me. So the most useful thing I picked up was questioning others. Instead of flying to pieces and trying to justify and crying and stuff, when somebody would say, hey, I heard you were an apostate now. I said, now who told you that? I said, Trixie told me that. Well, why would she say such a thing? So you just start questioning, and you don't give them any information. It's like talking to a narcissist. You just don't. And if you're doing it to somebody who's part of the group, eventually they're going to come to some kind of realization that the stuff they're saying is offensive and they're going to shut up. So that was really, really where I went with it that is helpful. And it's the same thing if somebody tries to dictate your emotions. You don't have to accept that. You don't even have to be ugly about it. You can just say, yeah, I don't agree with you on that, and just smile and walk away. Bossy, forged in the fires of hell. I like to say, because what I went through was just evil. And here's where it's more evil to me. My husband doesn't agree with me on this, but I'm going to talk about this. We have had a group, several people that treated me like I was really close friends with. I mean, I took their kids on international trips. I took my kids. We did different things. And I thought I was good friends with them. And when this all went down, they turned their backs on me to the point when I called, they said, "Don't call me. You're apostate." So they didn't treat me well. I'd run into the gym and they wouldn't even make eye contact or say hi or anything. I'd say, "Hey, so and so." They wouldn't do that. And now that I've moved to Costa Rica, they've contacted me and said, "Hey, can you host me for a trip here for a week and a half?" And I'm like, coming up with reasons not to, because I don't want that. So yeah, I'm seeing in the comments you guys are talking about. I am. It makes me afraid of white men, especially black men have always been especially nice and much more gracious. If only we were like men. I agree, Celine. A lot of people, and I've noticed that too, and that's one reason I'm a big supporter of equality between the races, because I've noticed black men are treat white women, especially. I don't know about how they treat black women, but they treat us very nice, old fashioned like. And I like that. I prefer that actually to the way a lot of arrogant white guys treat us all. That's one of the things that's really nice about being a old lady now. I don't have to play any of those games. I just can be my salty self and just say, "Hey, no, we don't do that." So all of you are having bad days. I'm sorry. Know that we all have problems with that when we're coming out, or we're just dealing with life and our bodies. I don't know about you guys, but I'm struggling too, but it has to do more with the fact that the dieting is messing with the blood sugar, blood sugar. And haven't even tested my blood sugar, but I know when it goes low, and I know when I'm like going, "Oh, no." So that's what I'm having to do. And I'm trying to do laundry because we didn't have hot water for so long. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. We have a tankless hot water tank heater that is the best thing in the world. The best thing in the world. That's all I got to say. And it could never leak water everywhere except for around where the pipes fit. But it can't come apart in the middle of the night. I've had 4 of those that have done it through the years. And one of them seriously ruined my house because I was out of town. I came back and I had done that. But to see an article about the little girl in Australia. Bossy, I will take a look, and I'm going to have to research this because that is awful. Because I have to talk about that too again at some point. How religion, they treat illness as if it's a spiritual problem, and you and I know that it just is what it is. Our bodies are not perfect, unfortunately. Things happen. You inherit various things. I got a girlfriend that in 2 days is undergoing not a heart bypass, but the thing where they send the balloon up and unblock your arteries. And she is, she's terrified. So I'm going to have to call her today and talk to her some more. So save your energy if you're having health problems with those people who are worth it. Okay, I'll take a look for Bossy. Hello, Noelle. We just have to make the best of what we can. You're absolutely right. And do what we can or don't do what we can and feel no guilt over it. Unlike religion that likes to tell you to be guilty over everything. I've always found that guilt is kind of a useless emotion unless it spurs you to make a positive change in your life. So many times the guilt we feel isn't even really based in reality. It just is what it is, and it's not a good thing. Put your shirts in the basket on your walker. I weeded my sidewalks outside sitting on a stool yesterday because it was so hot. But open heart surgery 7 times. If you need help chatting with her, please let me know. Small Town Jewel, I may hit you up. This is her first procedure, and she is very worried. Bossy, and that's where I am. I'm trying to shift those extra pounds, and it's not easy, particularly when you can't walk very well. It makes a difference. Yeah, so it is what it is, as a girlfriend I used to work with said. Except she used to say, "It be what it be," and I love that sentiment because it's so true. And that's one of the things that I don't like about certain types of evangelical Christianity is they try to deny what is real, keep you with guilt and condemnation, and ignore the fact that there's grace out there for all of us, whatever we're doing. Okay, you guys, I'm going to go. I've got clothes to fold myself. If you could see right behind me, I have like 50 loads of laundry I've got to fold. I'll go reply to your last Twitter post so you can find me easily. Yeah. Go ahead and do that. And I will see you guys maybe tomorrow. We'll see how things go. Love you.